Today we're going to have a look at Lenovo's M92p Tower. I just received this today, and it's a manufacturer refurbished unit, but the advantage with me is that it has a Core i7-3770 processor, third generation Intel i7. There's 4 gigabytes of DDR3 memory on this unit. Now I've got another 4 already, so that'll easily upgrade to 8 gigabytes. A 1 terabyte hard drive is also in there, along with an AMD Radeon. I believe it's either the 7450 or 7570. I'm pretty certain it's a 7450 or 70. It's 1 gigabyte of video memory on there. Now the Lenovo ThinkCentre 92p's are kind of more oriented as business desktops, and not so much on the consumer line, because when we open up the casing and also look at the ports on the back, you'll see some stuff you don't see on your typical consumer computer. But on the front here is our push button for power. We've also got our power and hard drive activity indicators. This is kind of a carrying handle right here, which is kind of convenient when you want to move the computer. Below that is our DVD-RW drive. We have a second drive bay if we want to expand that. Also, there's a 3.5-inch bay here that's technically for the 15-in-1 media card reader. If you wanted, you probably could try to put some kind of floppy drive if you really wanted to have that in there. And below that is 2 USB 2.0 ports plus a headphone and microphone jack. Now we turn the computer around. Look at the ports on the back here. At the top is our power supply. This is probably a 300 watt supply that it came with. There's some other options to get maybe a 360 or possibly even 400 watt supply. But our ports on the back, one of the ports you don't see anymore that this one has is a Db9 Serial Port. And this was used a long time ago for mice and scanners and modems way back. But this is useful if you've still got some legacy hardware that still needs to work over a serial port. Below that we have a VGA port and a display port. This is for the Intel HD4000 graphics that are on that i7 processor. But this isn't going to need those since this has a dedicated card. Below that we have 4 USB 3.0 Superspeed ports. Then 2 USB 2.0 ports plus a 10-100 1000 gigabit Ethernet. And then we have our 3 audio ports for microphone, line out and line in. And below that is our dedicated graphics card with a DVI-D port and display port there. Now the computer does not have Wi-Fi built in as standard, because again, this is kind of a business-oriented desktop, so a lot of it is set up to use the Ethernet port, but I've also got a wireless adapter already, so I'm just going to use that for it. And that's really all there is. We're going to at least open the case up. And before we get to opening up the case, in the box you do get, of course, the typical power cord. You get a Lenovo 2-button mouse for the scroll wheel. And then, let's see, you get the keyboard. Pretty generic keyboard, there's no like shortcut keys or anything on it. And then you get a little pamphlet pretty much with documentation saying that you can go online to get the documentation, because again, it is a refurbished product. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there is Windows 8 Professional on this. Right there is the decal for it, so this has the professional version of Windows 8 and it's 64-bit. And of course that's the indication that it's refurbished. Let's open up the case. Look inside the case. The camera reoriented a little bit here. Now they set the case up to be opened up easily. There's 2 thumb screws in the back here. I'm getting those out right now. Okay. And there's a handle, and you push in this button and you pull this back and it should open. Just like that. A little bit closer. Down. So here's our board. So here is our 3rd generation i7 processor. That's the fan and heatsink for it. Here's our dedicated AMD Radeon card. We got one stick of 4 GB memory in there. Of course, our optical drive is here. Hard drive is here. Now the thing with these computers is that these hard drives are supposed to be really easy to pull out. Just like that, actually. All you do is just disconnect it and pull out the hard drive, and then take off this plastic casing, exchange it with another drive, and then slide it right in. Just like that. So it makes it really easy to swap out hard drives, and there is a second bay right here. So if you got another hard drive in there, you can do that. Now there's only, let's see if I can show, there's only 4 SATA connectors in here. And of course 2 of them are already used. The other 2 are for another optical drive and another hard drive. But I do have a eSATA adapter that I'm going to install in here that's going to connect up to those. So if I use that, there's not going to be any expandability inside here. That's kind of the limitation. Because most consumer computers I've seen have 6 SATA ports on the board. This only has 4. So that's a little bit of a limitation, but I think I'll manage with it. The other thing on this board that you don't see often anymore, you can see one right here. This is a PCI slot. Now there's a PCI Express 16 that the graphics card is in, and a PCI Express X1 below that, but there's 2 standard PCI slots in here again. That's for legacy hardware that you may want to use in this computer, because again it's kind of business oriented. But that's pretty much the Lenovo M92p Tower. So when I was talking about setting up an eSATA connection on here, I was originally going to use this 2 SATA to eSATA connector bracket and take up one of these slots back here. But when I looked closer on the casing, I found this empty block here that was for another display port for some reason, and I noticed it fit the same size as one of these here on the mounting bracket. So I took out the cover piece there, managed to finagle the one eSATA connector in there, and then managed to fasten it down and got it hooked up. So that was an interesting little tip for those of you that might be putting additional connectors on here but don't want to use up your slots. So, and I tested it out with an eSATA cable. I got one right here, and it just plugs right in. I just gotta make sure it's oriented correctly. Like there. So now I've got an eSATA connection for my eSATA hard drive. That's why I needed that. That little tip is